Hey, Donna, thank you for the introduction and thank you everybody for joining for the Microsoft webinar. Can everybody hear me okay? Donna, I guess if Donna, you guys can hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Yep, we'll monitor the chat. If anybody has any problems, just let us know.
Okay, great. And so I thought I would start today and just kind of start right where we're at with Microsoft Teams as far as this specific meeting is, and just give you guys a quick overview of the controls in the meeting so you'll be aware of those. And then I'm going to jump into kind of the agenda that is included with the webinar, and we'll get into the intro to Microsoft Teams and go kind of briefly over a few of the basic things, and then we'll get into specific tasks that we feel like will be helpful for those of you that might be working remote and haven't done that before, or anyone who would learn and benefit from all the ways that you can communicate and collaborate with people, even if you're not working out of the same office. And so we're going to go through those items and some specific things in regards to starting chats and calls. Then we'll go through managing meetings, and then we'll provide kind of towards the end, we'll spend a little bit of time on overview of teams and channels and how you can work and collaborate in those as well. And so that's kind of the goal for today, is to go through those items. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So anybody who, for all those that are in the Teams meeting, it looks like a couple of people may have called in as well. Hopefully you guys are also in the Teams meeting. So as I mentioned to start, just want to kind of go over the controls in the actual Teams meeting and review what those are. So as you see, the controls come up whenever you hover over the Teams meeting. So I don't know which levels everyone knows, so I just wanted to kind of cover each of these. So you can turn your camera on with the camera icon. You can mute your microphone here or turn it back on if you are wanting to talk. And this is normally an arrow up button. And right now I'm sharing, so it has a stop sharing button, so I could turn it off if I don't want to share any longer. And then additionally, we have 3 dots here, and this just gives you more actions that you can do within your Teams meeting. One of the key things here that we tell people about a lot with the 3 dots is to set up your devices for this call. So for example, if you're using computer audio, you can click here and say show device settings and make sure that you're connected to the device that you want to use for your audio. And so for a lot of people on their machines, they may have an external device that they want to use, or they may have a device that's plugged into their machine, and Teams won't necessarily default to that. So if you click show device settings, you can come over here and check all of your device options. As you can see here, I've got a couple of different options for me. I utilize multiple devices for my sound for Teams. So, but you can always change that, and you have within that, you have the speaker and the microphone. So you could actually have the speaker on one device, and then you could have the microphone on another device if you wanted to do that. So that's an option too. And so we always like to point that out. And then for your camera, same thing as far as device settings go. You can also click on your camera settings and determine which camera. Sometimes people will have external cameras or USB cameras plugged in that they want to utilize. So that's an option as well within your device settings. There's a couple of other neat things here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my video so I can show you a neat thing you may have seen in the Microsoft Teams commercial that has been distributed a lot on TV and other channels. So if I turn my camera on, I'm going to say hello to everyone. Hello. So a neat feature that you can do with the 3 dots here is you can blur your background. So that's what they show in the commercial. So basically you just click on those 3 dots and say blur background. And so now any movements I do in the foreground with my hands or any talking that I'm doing, you can see that good and clear, but whatever's in the background is blurred out. So That's a neat feature within Teams for any time that you're doing video calling, if you don't want people to be distracted by what's in your background, or maybe you just don't want them to see what your background has. So that's a nice feature within Teams, and they didn't have that initially when Teams was first rolled out a few years back, but they have had this feature for a year or two now. So that's a nice thing as well. And then going back to the controls here, if you want to turn the blur back off, you can just click on those three dots again and say don't blur background, and you can do that. So so those are the options there. You can also turn on live captions or look at a keypad if you want to dial in somebody. So I'm going to turn my camera off for now. Another really nice feature within a meeting within Teams is you can show the participants and see who all the people are that are on the call. I'll get into this some more when we start getting into calling and some of the other functionality within Teams. But a really nice thing that you can do once you're in a meeting is you can go up here where it says invite someone, and you could actually just dial a number of someone that you know. I'm just going to dial my cell number. So I could just dial that number right here, and if I call that, it'll bring them right into the Teams meeting. So that's a really nice feature if you didn't invite somebody to a call, but you need them and they're not part of your organization. If you have somebody that's part of your organization and within your Teams setup, you can just type their name and invite them to a meeting. So we've got a demo tenant set up here for our Teams. So this is a fictional person, but if I wanted to invite James Smith and he's in my company, I can just click on his name and he would be invited to this meeting. Teams would actually call him right here from the meeting. So that's a nice feature. Another way you can get somebody in this specific meeting is there's a little button here where you can click on copy join info, and you can just click that. It copies it to your clipboard, and then you can open up an Outlook window or an email window and send a link to somebody via email. So that's another nice feature to get people to join an existing meeting that you're in. So I think that covers the majority of the buttons and the kind of the introductory features of an actual call. So I'd like to kind of go through an intro and talk more about just kind of hitting each of the features of Teams so that people will know all the capabilities that it has and all the collaboration that you can do. So to start with, I'm going to click on Teams. And so if you click on everything, pretty much navigation wise is over here on the left within Teams. So I'm going to kind of go through the navigation items here. So when you click on Teams, you get a list of your teams. Within the list of teams, you get basically you're able to find any channels to belong to or create your own or see channels that other people have invited you to. So this is specific to teams that you can see within your organization, or if you're a guest of anybody's team, you can see those. And then at the bottom of the teams list, you have the option to join or create a team. And so if you want to create a team, you can do that down here. And then this gear icon is a really key thing within the Teams functionality. And we'll get a little bit into that more when we talk about teams and channels and meetings. But basically, this allows you to manage your list of teams. Also, while we're on this Teams window, you can organize your teams any way that you want. As far as the list, how it appears. A lot of people like to do it alphabetical by the names of the teams. So for example, this demo team, if I wanted to have that alphabetical, I could move it up here under the C's, and basically you can just click on any team and drag it. So it's pretty easy to organize your list here and move things around. And you can also archive teams. So that's a feature that you would use this gear button to manage your teams with. And if I click on that, you can see here my archive teams are down at the bottom under the 3 archive teams, and then I have active teams as well listed. So if I have any active teams that I want to archive, I can just come over here to the 3 dots under the Manage Teams functionality and click on the Archive Team button and archive that team. And it still has all the data there, and you can still view the data, but you just can't change anything once it's archived. So that's a great feature when you're managing teams, and we'll get into more of that a little later, but just wanted to cover that, the kind of the basics of the teams. So I'm going to come back over here to the teams list. So this is the teams list, and so meetings, as I said, we'll get more into teams here and some of the functionality, how we can collaborate. But for right now, I want to move on to meetings and go through what that looks like. As far as meetings go, you have a calendar view. So that's the next button here. This syncs with your Outlook calendar if you're utilizing Outlook and or Office 365. And so anything that shows in your Outlook would also show here. Within the Teams app itself, if you have meetings listed here, for example, today's Thursday. So if I did a new team here and said internal sync, I'm not going to do a lot of other details here. I'm just going to throw something on here to give us an example so you can see what it looks like. So I put a meeting on there for internal sync. And so now anytime that you have set up a meeting on your calendar, you can click on that meeting and join the meeting right from it. And so that's a nice feature if you're not wanting to have to locate your Outlook invite, you can just join the meeting from right there. And also, as far as adding meetings to team meetings, there's an integration with Outlook, if you haven't used that already, that allows you to basically integrate with your Outlook and just click a button to add a Teams meeting. So, for example, I'll show you quickly here from a new appointment. So once you've installed Teams, all you have to do is basically reboot your machine and reboot your Outlook, and the Teams meeting will start linking to your Outlook. And so as you see here, you get a Teams meeting button. So for any meetings that I'm doing within Outlook, I can just click on Teams meeting, and we have ours configured to also have call-in options. And then there's some, depending on what licensing you have with Office 365, you can do online only meetings, or you can do online with the ability to call in, and we can talk more about that later. But that's how the Teams meetings can be set up. Just wanted to share that kind of briefly. So that's kind of the general overview as far as the calendar button goes. So I want to go briefly into calls, which is the next tab here. And not everybody will have the calls option within their teams if they haven't set up their organization for calls. But if you do have it set up, you can basically call anyone from Teams, even if they're not using Teams. So that's a really nice feature. For any contacts that you have, you can call them. Just go over to the right of the name and come over here, and you can do just a regular audio call. You can do a video call with them. Or you can email them right from there, and you can see within your calls tab any history of calls that you've made. You can set up people with speed dial, and you can see voicemail options there as well. And then the make a call button, you can type contacts here. And one thing that would look a little different here is if you have the full capability of calling in Teams. I don't have it with this demo tenant set up, but you would just have basically a keypad here, just like you would have for any phone. And you can just dial a number, or if you have somebody's number saved in your contact info, you can just copy and paste it right into the dial pad and click call. And you can call people that are not on Teams, call any basic number, either domestically or even internationally, if that you're set up for that type of calling. So that's kind of the general information as far as calls, and I'll get into more about making a call and all the ways that you can make calls. This is just the calling specific from the Teams app, but there's lots of other ways that you can also make calls. And so we'll get into that here in just a minute. The other tab that we haven't talked much about is activity up here. So basically any activity that happens within Teams shows up in what is called your activity feed. So if you get tagged in a team, if you get added to a team, if somebody reacts to a chat message, anything that shows up, any of those things that happen will show up in your activity feed. And they also, depending on your team setting, you can set it to pop up in the bottom right corner of your screen, even if you're not in Teams, so that you're made aware of them. And so if you notice, the chat here has a red 1, so the activity feed would also give you a red number, just like everybody's probably used to with their smartphones. So anytime you have activity that you haven't looked at yet, you'll have a number on the activity feed as well with the number of how many activity items you haven't looked at. And so that will stay red until you take a look at your activity feed. And so if I go down to chat, we'll talk a little bit about chat, and I'd like to kind of get into the next segment here and talk more about starting chats and calls. So you can see here at the top, the first item we have here is our actual call that we're in right now. So any calls that you do, you get a history of the chat from those calls right here in your chat list. And so that's one thing that you can see whenever you go into the chat. Even while you're in a call, you can see the chat. So I see there's a few questions here. Maybe we could go through a couple of these and see if there's anything we can answer right now. Is there a way to initiate an audio-only call and provide a phone number and access codes to attendees? Yes, there's a couple of ways to do that. So if you want to do an audio-only call, there's several ways you can do it. If it depends, it varies a little bit depending on if it's an external person or if it's somebody that's in your organization. If it's somebody in your organization, you can just click on contacts and select that person, and then you can just click over here on the icon and do an audio call. If it's somebody outside your organization, then you would have to go down to the calls and utilize the keypad, like I mentioned, which I don't have that on this demo tenant. But if your Office 365 license includes Microsoft Teams calling, you would just be able to dial that person and do an audio-only call right from the calls tab. So I think that was the first question here. Yeah, Donna did mention as far as the licensing, what is required.
Right. It is. It does require the PSTN conferencing license. Typically, how we do that is we say whomever's going to host the meetings. You can set it up for everyone. Some of our clients add that license to every user because every user hosts meetings, and it would provide a phone number that you can dial into. But if you don't host meetings and you have an assistant or you have someone that's doing that hosting, it's one or two people in the company, then you just add that PSTN conferencing to their license, and you're not having to pay that extra for everyone.
And it looks like there's one other question here, Donna, from Aaron. Yeah, so you just answered that one.
Mm-hmm.
So
basically, with the phone system, what you get out of the box with Microsoft is the Microsoft Teams application. It doesn't come with their phone piece, which is the cloud PBX portion. That portion is built in to the enterprise license. So if you have an E3 or an E5, E3 has to have some ad hoc licenses added on. E5 comes with it, and then you add a plan to it. So if you're interested in that, we can set up calls with you on an individual basis and kind of review your licenses with you and go over what it would take for you to actually use Microsoft Teams as your phone system. We use it as our phone system. It does have an auto attendant, a voicemail. It has inbound, outbound calling. You can get transcription from a voicemail in your email so that you can hear that. You can use the app for your if you're out and about on your cell phone. You don't want to use your cell phone to make that call. You can make the call on your app. So it doesn't have a lot of reporting. It doesn't have a lot of features that you may see in a traditional type phone system because it hasn't been out that long, a couple of years with Microsoft. So they're constantly developing it. But if you just basic phone system making calls, it does do that. And I'm happy to provide more information on that.
Great. Thanks, Donna. So I'll kind of jump back in here on the chat and just talk about some of the features within chat. So you can see right here, I was chatting with Andrea, one of my coworkers, and so I'm on a demo tenant, so I'm considered an external user to Andrea, but I can still chat with her. And so you can do that basically with people that are external as long as they don't have that blocked as a policy in their security settings for their Microsoft Teams tenant. Some companies do not want their users to be able to chat externally, so they have that blocked. But I haven't found too many that do that, but typically people that have higher end security concerns just don't want their employees to be able to chat externally. But in this case with Andrea, I can chat with her. And if I want to call Andrea, I can call her with an audio call by clicking on the phone icon, or the video call by clicking on the video call icon. So there's a couple of abilities there. The chat is really rich as far as the amount of features and things that you can do. If you notice down here is the message box, and one thing that's really nice about chat is if you have some specific info you're trying to give to somebody that, for example, you have things that are bulleted and a lot of information that you've typed up somewhere else and you want to put in a chat message for somebody, I can start typing and say, please review this info. And then if you click on the A here, you can actually format just like you would in a Word document with right here within your chat. So that's a really nice feature, so that you can give people detailed information. I'm going to copy over some of my tutorial notes from Teams just to give you an example. So I had these things bulleted, so this kind of gives you an overview of some of the things I'm showing you how to do within Teams. But I can take all of that info, and then once I've got everything I want, one thing that you have to remember when you start formatting a chat message is that when you've clicked on that A, the enter button will no longer send this chat to the person you're sending it to. You have to go down here and click send. That way, if you're in the format and you're typing something and you hit enter, you can still go to the next line instead of the enter button accidentally sending your chat before you were done. So that's just kind of a safety they put in place where basically the enter key to send the chat is disabled if you're in the format functionality. So, and you can fully format everything that's here. I can bold stuff, I can put italics in, I can indent or unindent, move the info just like I would basically in a Word document. I can add numbered bullets or just standard bullets, and I can reduce or lower the font size by large, medium, and small. I can highlight stuff in it. There's a lot of capability all just within a simple text chat. So it's really nice to be able to do all those things, especially if you're trying to chat with somebody that you're used to seeing in person and you just want to give them as much information as you can as if you were talking to them. So then when I've got them all done, I just click send, and whenever it turns blue, then you know that you've sent that. And then you also notice there's a little check mark that confirms that it's been sent. And when the person reads it, as you can see this one up here, it tells you that chat has been seen by that person. So that's a nice feature. They also can like it or prescribe any type of emoji to whatever you send them. So a lot of times we just use like to kind of confirm, yeah, I saw it, or yeah, that's good, or something like that. And so now you can see Andrea's typing something back. So she said, thank you. And I can come over here and say like, and then she'll see that on her end that I reacted to it. So it's a real simple way for people that are in chat to be able to, just confirm information, confirm that you've seen things. You can also, within chat, if you are copying something, for example, a lot of people like to use the snippet tool. So if I take the snippet tool and copy over something right here from the Teams meeting, just take a little snippet of this part of the screen and say copy, and then I can just come down here in the chat and click paste, and that shows up right in the chat. So that's another real useful feature if you're trying to show somebody something. Another thing you can do right here in chat is if you're chatting with somebody and you have something on your screen that you want them to see, you can actually share your screen right from the chat. And so that's what this arrow up button is here. So if you just click share screen, it'll be a one-on-one screen sharing with that person while you're in the chat with them. So it may be that you're just wanting to show them something, or you may just want to go ahead and do a call, and then within the call, you could share your screen as well. So there's a couple of options there within the chat. You can also upload a file within a chat, so you can click on files and share it right there, or if you've got the file and you're typing down here in the chat, you can say, right here, please take a look at this file. And then you can come right here and upload it from your computer or from your OneDrive, and then just locate the file in your File Explorer and upload the file. And so I'm going to upload something here real quick, just as an example. So I'm uploading a Word document here, and you see the green progress bar. So now it's uploaded. I can click send, and now that will show up on Andrea's side as a file that she can upload. And the nice thing too about this, once you've uploaded it, it will show up in the Files tab as well as a file. And the two of you could actually collaborate on this file together right here from the chat if you wanted to do that. And you could both update the file and sit here and work on it together, and you would be able to see each other working on it. And so I'll also demonstrate that here in just a minute under our Teams demo and show how we could also do that. So I think that's quite a bit with chat. Another thing you can do with chat, if you notice here, I've got a list of people that I've chatted with already. So if you have a really important chat that you always want to be at the top of your chat, you can pin chats. So you just click on these three dots and click pin. And then if you want to mute a chat that has too much activity right now because you're in a meeting, you can do that. You can temporarily or permanently mute a chat, or you can hide it if you've decided you don't want to see that chat anymore. So there's a lot of functionality you can do right there within the chat. Another thing you can do within chat that's nice is if you start a new chat, you can basically just type the name of who you want to start the new chat with, and then trying to find the new chat. There it is. It's up here. It's moved around on us a few times. So if you want to start a new chat, and let's say you have 2 or 3 people that you're needing to communicate with at the same time, I can just type the names of those people. I'm trying to remember who. Yeah, so Jennifer's on this call, but I'm not going to do that. So there's Andrea, I could add her to it. And so then when I add all the people to that chat, I can start typing message and click send, and all the people that I've added to the chat will be automatically drawn into that chat and start seeing what's being typed. And you can have all the same features within that team chat that you've just created that you have in an individual chat. If everybody wants to jump on a call, you could type a message and say, hey, let's jump on a call. And then everybody would be automatically called right from that chat. So there's a lot of abilities there to be able to do group chats. Sometimes you may have a team or something that's working on a project for an entire day. So you may want to do a group chat for that team and add all those people to it, and then everybody can just provide their input as they're going along with a group chat. If you have a whole bunch of chats that you start getting in this list and you want to filter the list, you can just type a few letters of anything that you want to filter it by, and it'll automatically filter your list of chats so that you can see so if you have a certain person that you're trying to find their chat, you can just type the first few letters of their name and it'll automatically sort the chat list by their name. So that's a nice feature as well within the chat. And that filter option is available with Teams and every other navigation within Teams as well. So I think that's it for chat. As far as calls, we've talked a little bit about that. You can start calls various numbers of ways. And I covered that kind of on the call screen. And then as far as video calls, as I mentioned, you can start them right here from any chat that you're in. You can also start calls from a team. If you have a team that you want to have everybody on the team to join a specific call, you can do that. And then I already mentioned pinning the chat. So I'd like to move on a little bit more and talk about managing meetings. And so as far as managing meetings, I'm going to pull up the meeting here again. Joining a team meetings, there's a couple of ways that you can join a team meeting. You can create instant meetings if you want. by just coming over here and saying new meeting, or I'm sorry, you can actually click the Meet Now button. I don't want to do that because it'll end this call for me. But you can click Meet Now and start an instant meeting and then invite the person that you want to talk to. So if you have an instant meeting that you want to do with somebody, you can do that by the Meet Now button. If you're in a conversation, like I was showing before, you can start a meeting from that, either via the video call or the audio call. And then you can also create meetings within a channel. So if you go to a channel, you can select meetings in the channel and select and start a new call there. So if I say schedule meeting here, actually, let me go back to one of the channels here. So I think actually some of the meeting options are not necessarily turned on for me because I don't have the full calling, but you can come down here where the camera icon is and say meet now within a channel. So I'm not going to click that button because again, it'll disconnect my current meeting. But I can click meet now within a channel and it would call everybody that's in that channel. So that's another way that you can start a meeting. The most common way that I showed earlier is to utilize your calendar invites and add meetings to those. And so once you've done that and added in a calendar invite with a Teams meeting, I want to go back to that and just give another example of what happens there. So if you notice here on the calendar invite, I've got the Teams meeting here. And so I just click add the Teams meeting, and then I add the recipients that I want to be in the meeting. I can add a title and an agenda above the line. And so a key thing to remember if you're doing a Teams meeting from that you're inviting people to, whether they're external or internal, and they're going to join the meeting and they're asking for instruction, they can join the meeting either via the desktop app, and the desktop download is free. The Microsoft Teams desktop app is a free download, or they can dial in via number and conference ID only. If they don't want to use the Teams app, or if they're traveling in their car and they just want to do the audio portion, they can just call in to the number that's listed here and enter the conference ID. And then a third thing that they can do, if they click on this Join Microsoft Teams meeting, they'll get two options when they first click on it. They can join via the web, or they can download the Windows app. And so just one thing to keep in mind, if they join via the web and don't download the app, they'll have most of the functionality, but one important thing that they won't have is the ability to share their screen within the app or within the Teams meeting. So that's something that we've always made sure that we're careful about. If we have somebody that we were wanting them to share their screen, we make sure that they're aware that they would need to download the desktop app if they're going to share their screen. If they're not sharing their screen and they're only going to view the content that we are sharing, then they can join, by all means, they can use the web app instead and join the Teams meeting on the web. I think generally the desktop app, the Windows app, works a little bit better as far as the performance of the meeting goes. So we try to encourage that, but you can certainly use the web instead. So screen sharing, we talked about that already earlier, but I'll cover a little bit about that as well. So you can notice here that I have been sharing my screen the whole time. There's some neat things you can do with screen sharing. If you decide that you want to share a specific PowerPoint file or a file, you can share just the file instead of your entire desktop. When I started this sharing on this meeting, when you first click the share button, and I can't really demonstrate this because if I disconnect, you won't see it, you'll get options along the bottom of how you want to share. And so the far left will be desktop only. And if you have multiple screens, you'll get the option to share one of those one, two, or three desktop screens. Then you'll be able to share specific apps, or you can share specific files. So I'm going to stop here real quick and just show you an example of how you can share from a specific PowerPoint file. There's some cool features within that if you share a PowerPoint file. So I'm going to locate a PowerPoint file here real quick and share that for you guys so you can see, so we can demonstrate some of the functionality of that if you're wanting to share a PowerPoint file. Let me just locate that file here real quick. All right, so I've got a demonstration here of a file. So I can click on, I've got just a, so you can see here, if I go ahead and start from the beginning for the PowerPoint, you'll see here in the, right here in the Teams, that you can see the specifics of what slide I'm showing. A neat thing that you can see in Teams is that you can actually, if you're in this Teams meeting and you want to go ahead and look at some of the other slides, you actually have the ability right there in your Teams meeting to click on the buttons and see additional pages within the PowerPoint. And so and you can also see the next slide as far as being able to see, what the next items are going to be. So you can see also on the main screen, what I'm sharing is the slide that I'm trying to talk about. So now you can see the project goals is listed as far as the slide that I'm sharing. And then you can also see the next slide. I'm sorry, if you click through the arrows, you can see the next slide if you want to. But you only see the main slide that I'm sharing. And so the nice thing about being able to share right from PowerPoint is that if you had other things on your desktop that you didn't want people to see, they wouldn't see those things. They would only see the actual slides that you're sharing. So that's a nice advantage if you just share from the PowerPoint. So now I'm on to the next slide, and then I have the last slide. So just gives you a quick idea of what it looks like if you share directly from a PowerPoint slide. Okay, so I think that covers everything as far as screen sharing goes. I'd like to jump in a little bit more about Teams. We started on that earlier, so let me share my screen again here, and we'll talk a little bit more about Teams. Let me close this out. There we go. Okay, so getting back to the teams here, we've got a list of teams here, and so what I want to do is just kind of give an overview of teams and channels. So with each individual team you've got in the list, you can create a new team. So down here at the bottom is where you would create a new team. Once you click on that, you get a new window. You could also join a team if somebody's giving you a code to join a new team. Typically, I always say build a team from scratch. If you have an existing group or team set up, you can create from those as well. I'm just going to cover today about building a team from scratch. So once you click on that, you can do an org-wide team where everyone in your organization automatically joins. Public is so that anyone in your org can join. We usually do private so that we have to give people permission to join, just because it's easier to manage permissions if you have to give people permissions to join. So if I do private, I can give my team a name here. So I'm just going to say Jones Company. And then so typically for a team name, we would list a company first of whatever the team is about. So a lot of times companies are using teams to manage projects. So or specific tasks. So we usually list out a team name with a company name first, and then what it is you're managing or what it is this is about. You can also give a description. We found that people don't see the description as much, so a lot of times I just leave that blank, but you can add a description if you want people that are looking through your teams to see what the team is all about. So then once I click create on creating the team, it gives me the option to add the team members that I want on the team. So here I can start typing the names of people that I want to add to the team. I'm just trying to find some example names here. I'll just do the James Smith. So I can add James Smith, and then I can also add people that are external to a team. And so their ability in the teams will not be quite as much, but they'll be able to still see the main functionality of the team. So then once you've added all the people that you want to your team, you can click add. If you're adding an external user and you don't know whether or not they have teams, you can actually just type their email address right here to add an external user to your teams. So for example, if I wanted to add, this is just my regular email address with OnPar. So it says we didn't find any matches. So that's right. The external is, I'm not going to be able to add them to this team, but normally you can just, if you've got the full team's ability, you can just add an email address here, and then there will be a little pencil icon where you can change it to display the name of that person instead of their email account, or you can just leave it as the email account. And then when you're done, you just click add, and then you've got your team created. So then over here on the left, you can see that I've got a team called Jones Company Project Work. And I can take that and slide it up so that it's in alphabetical order if I want to. By default, any new team that you create will show up at the bottom of the list. So that's the default settings for creating a new team. The general tab is automatically created anytime you create a team. And then once you've got a general tab, if you have more work that you're going to do for this client, but that you want, it's going to be more, it's going to be a new project or something completely different than what you did for the same client before, you can add a new channel within that same team that you've already created. So if you notice here, I can just click add channel. And what happens is if you add a new channel, any members that you've added to that team will automatically be able to see that team as well. So typically that's the way the scenario works. If you have a team that you don't want those same members, you can either manage your team and remove people, or you can just completely add a new channel or a new team. So here I can create a new channel name and set my privacy, and I'll go ahead and say support for client. That's the new channel name. I'm going to say it's accessible to everyone on the team. I could change it to private and set it so it's only accessible to a specific group of people within the team if I wanted to do that.
And Gary, we had a question: is there a way to invite others from outside the company? And so I don't know if you want to show that as well as you're doing this.
Yes. So you can definitely do that. You can say add member here and just add a member to a team from outside the company. Right now, the way this team's demo is set up, I can't do that. But the way you normally do that is just type the email address of the person that's outside the company. So in this case, I think Andrea is set up on our tenant as a demo, but yeah, you can normally just type the name of somebody that's outside the company and click add, and they would also be added to that team. The only exception to that too would be if that company has set up their security so that they can't join external teams, which that is something that you can set up if you don't want people to be able to do that. I haven't seen that actually happen with anybody that I've worked with recently, but I have seen it in the past where I was working that we tried to invite an external member and it wouldn't let them join our team. But 90% of the time, you'll be able to invite external members to a project team. So that's a nice feature. And one thing to keep in mind if you do that is some of the functionality may not be as useful to an external member. So that's probably a good segue to give you an example of some of the things you can do in a team channel. So for here, Andrea and I are on this demo team. So one thing that we always try to do, if you notice right here, it says start a new conversation, type @ to mention someone. So we always try to mention someone if we're putting something in that team channel. So if you don't do that, they won't go in and see that unless they just happen to notice. One of the things that happens in a team channel whenever something new comes up is that channel turns bold until you look at it. So that's one way that you'll know that somebody has put something new in that channel. But if you don't happen to notice that it's bold, you could miss that somebody's added stuff to that channel. So if you tag somebody by typing the @ before you start your message, like I'm doing here, I type @ and add her name, and then say, hey, can you give me feedback? And then since I've tagged her, she'll actually get a pop-up in the bottom right of her screen with information to that says you've been tagged in this channel, and she can click on that and go take a look at what it was that we did. So the other thing I can do is that I mentioned before, you can do in the chat. You can also do this in a channel, is you can upload files. In the channel, you can click on the files button and upload them directly from here, and everybody would see them. Andrea uploaded a test file here, so you can see that. You can also upload a test file by typing in the chat and clicking on the paperclip like I was showing in an actual chat, but this is in a team. So I can say, and usually if I'm typing a conversation, I'll just try to go ahead and tag that person's name within the conversation that I'm putting in that team channel. Please review file, and so then I can go and take the same file that I uploaded before and upload that as well. Here it is. So then I click the send button, and that file's uploaded, and I've asked her to please review this file. And so that file also will show up over here on the Files tab. And there it is. It just popped in when I clicked on it. And so you can open it right here from the chat conversation in the team channel, or you can go to the files, either way. So I want to go ahead and show you the collaboration that you can do with anything that is Office 365. So I've opened up this file, and so you can go in and edit the file right here within the Teams. This is basically embedding Word right here within Teams. And so I can go in here and make changes to this file. And you can see as I got ready to make any changes, you can see the AS right here. What's happening is Andrea is collaborating on this file real time as I have it open. So that's a really nice feature that you can collaborate on files. You can see real time any changes that they're making, and you can see who it is that's making the change to that file. So you can see that. So in two places, you see the name right here. You can hover over the initials and see the full name, or you can see it up here in the upper right corner, and it tells you where they're at and who it is that's editing that file. So you can do this with Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint documents, basically any Office suite files you can do this with and collaborate on them and see any changes that are being made to a specific file. So a lot of great collaboration features you can use with files and updates. So if you have a file, in some cases we've had situations where we had a large Excel file that needed to be updated and multiple people needed to update different parts of it. So you can just upload that Excel file to your team channel, and everybody that's on that team can have at it, and they'll see the updates as they're working on them in real time. So the one thing I do want to show too on this, if you're editing a document and you want the full capabilities of everything Word can do, you'll notice here that this is sort of a limited ability to edit the Word document. So what you can do if you want to edit the full document is you can click on the three dots, and the three dots is sort of a recurring theme with Teams. It's all everywhere you see the three dots, that always gives you more options. So you can click on that and you can say open in browser, and that would allow you to edit the Word document in the online version of Word, or you can say open in desktop app and it'll open it so you have full editing abilities, or you can download it locally to either your OneDrive or your hard drive and work on that document offline if for some reason you don't want somebody to see the changes that you're making. We usually don't recommend to do that just because you lose the collaboration if you download it offline. So if I say open in desktop app, it gives me a message and tells me that they're opening this in Word, and now my Word is opened on another screen. So I'll drag this over here, and you can see right here in Word, it tells me even though I'm in the desktop app now, I still can see that Andrea is in the document and has it open. So I can make any edits to it that I want to do that are in the full version of the document, and make any changes here, and then when I'm done with it in the full version of Word, I can just simply click the X and it will save those changes automatically back to that Teams channel. So it does give you basically full editing abilities that you would normally have with Office Suite if you open it in the desktop app. So, and then it just gives you a message here that you're all done. You can close this file now, or you can click resume editing. And then it opens it back up in the embedded version once you've closed it out. And then you can add comments to it here. You can put things in the conversation to the document here, or if you're done with that Word document, you can close it out.
Gary, one question we had was under the Files tab, can you create folders in there?
Yes, you can create folders here. So you can see all the buttons up here across the top. And so if you click new, the first option there is folder. And so you can also create a brand new document from here. So if you're on a Teams channel and you want to create a new document for everybody to see, you can just start from scratch right there in the Teams channel. But yeah, you can definitely create a new folder. You can also upload folders. So if you have a whole bunch of folders of something that you've got stored on your OneDrive and you just want to go ahead and put those on this Teams channel, you can upload multiple folders all at once. So, so you could select, I've got my Explorer window here. So let's say I wanted to select a whole bunch of these folders and upload it. I'm not going to do it because I don't want all these in there, but I could just hold down my Shift key and select as many folders as I want and say open it. It'll upload all those to that team channel. So you can really upload a lot of data to a Teams channel quickly and organize them in folders just like you would on your desktop. And so then you can also click the upload button, as I mentioned, and upload a specific file from there. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds on the sync on these other items here. I do want to cover, since we've only got a few minutes left, a really great feature within Teams channels. Sort of opens up a whole new can of worms. I probably could have spent 30 minutes just talking about this, is this plus sign right here. So anytime you're in a Teams channel, you can click the plus sign and you can add a tab. And once you click add a tab, you get all these options of your favorite apps that you can add right here to your channel. So there's some fun things you can do with that. There's some real useful things. I'll try to hit two of the more useful things since we just got a couple minutes. OneNote is a really useful tool because a lot of people like to use OneNote already. So if I click OneNote, it will fetch my notebooks and then it'll automatically name it based on the name of my channel. And then I can just click on that and say save, and it will embed that notebook right here in my Teams channel. The really nice thing about doing that is that you can then say open in your app, and you can open this up in your desktop OneNote app. And once you do that, you can basically have all this, you basically can just use your OneNote app and continually update your notes, and you don't even have to go back to Teams, but all the information is going to automatically show up in Teams. So it's really great for a project where you want you want a lot of transparency for everybody to see meeting notes and things like that that you're taking in in OneNote. So that's one thing you can do with the plus button. Another thing you can do with the plus button is you can add a document library from SharePoint. You can add a specific SharePoint site. And then one thing that's you have Planner, and I'll cover Planner here in just a second. And then there's Poly is a great thing if you need to poll people and ask them, what their opinion is on something to do with the project, or even if you just want to figure out where you can just click Poly and it'll allow you to create a custom poll and ask people to answer questions about a custom poll that you've created right there specific to that Teams channel. As you can see, there's tons of stuff you can put in here and embed right in the Teams channel. The other one I mentioned is Planner. If you don't have a tool for managing projects already, this is a great tool to help you manage projects. And once you set up a new plan and start a new project, you can actually enter tasks and task names, set due dates, and you can assign to the task to internal people within that team. And then once you get start added tasks and added dates, and and have a lot of input into the project planner, you can start seeing charts that give you a quick overview of where you're at on that project. And you can see here, I don't have any data here right now, but you can see charts, you can see the schedule of when people are doing tasks that are specific to this project, that you've assigned them to them. Just a lot of great functionality that you can use Planner for. And so that's just by clicking on that plus sign and adding a tab, you can do that. You can add it in buckets and add specific tasks under bucket names. And so if you have phases of a project, you could have a different bucket for each phase of the project. There's a lot of great functionality within Planner that you can use there and embed right in the teams. You can notice over here on the left, as I've been working, I've got some red notes. So these are items that just tell me, hey, there's some activity going on over here. You might want to see what this is. So I can go over here and click on this. And Andrea has tagged me and said, please update spreadsheet. So I may not have seen that if she didn't tag me. It would have just been bold instead of having the red number. So that's a really useful thing. And then the chat, it looks like there's a new red number there, and I can click on that and see that there's some new chat items here in the meeting. So I didn't get to a few of the last items I had here, but hopefully this was helpful to everyone. Donna, is there any questions that you want to try to answer that we may not have answered, or did we get to all of those?
There's a couple. In Office 365 E3, does it come with audio video conferencing? It does not come with the audio, so it comes with the Microsoft Teams. If you want the audio piece, you do have to add that on. So that's called PSTN conferencing, and that is an add-on license. It does come in the E5 license, but not the E3. Let's see. Kurt had a question on, is there a limit of how many no, I answered that one. Can only 4 screens be viewed at one time in Microsoft Teams? And yes, right now it is that way. They're working, Microsoft is working to update that. And Gary, unless you know differently, but I believe it's the last 4 people that speak in the team is the video that you can see on your screen.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
Yeah. And then Kurt wanted to know, how do you mute everyone? And there's basically a option at the top of with all of your contacts when they dial in. There's an option to mute all. Yeah, I think it's going to be, yeah, right there. Mm-hmm.
You can just mute all, and that will mute all of your contacts. And you can also, some other nice features that you can do while we're on that is you can remove a participant if somebody, I found that useful because sometimes people will, and they think that they've left the meeting and then they go on another call or they're driving in their car or something. And so you know that they're not supposed to be in the call, so you can just remove that participant in that case. And then you can also mute an individual participant if you don't want to mute all.
Right. And then Krister wanted to know if there are global call-in numbers. There are, and there's a different charge for that as well. So you can purchase addition. You can do a pay-as-you-go for those users. Since your tenant's based in the U.S., then it's right now it's U.S. numbers, but we can work with you on that as well. And I think we got everybody.
Susan had a question about collaborating live changes to a file in SharePoint. And yes, you can do that. The way that you would do that is you could just add either a document library, or you can click here and add something from SharePoint. So what you would basically do is add a link to that file from SharePoint. And that would allow you to collaborate on that file that's actually stored in SharePoint. So right here, you click on document library. When you click on add a tab, and you can say use a SharePoint link, and you just put your URL there and say go and click next, and it would place that file in the Teams channel. And then you would be able to make the adjustments within the Teams channel. It would also automatically save that back to SharePoint as well. So you can do that. I hope that answered Susan's question.
Okay. Well, thanks, Gary. Great job. Thanks, everyone. We had a great participation in this. We did have a suggestion that we do a webinar on OneNote. If people are interested in that, please let us know, and we will look at doing that as well. Again, we want to provide the tools here at OnPar that allow you to work in this, not only in this remote environment, but going forward. I think many people are going to learn a different way to work, and the genie's out of the bottle. That working from anywhere is a great thing. So we look forward to having more webinars and having you guys join us, and please let us know how we can continue to service your IT needs. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.